The menace of fake news continues to elicit public discourse with the risk of causing problems in the society if not checked. In this weekend special of Journalist Hangouts, analysts advocate enforcement of laws to punish purveyors of fake news. Let's share the story from Adeyemika Adeniyi with you.
Lately, fake news has been a topic on our lips. And with the rise of social media and its power of virality, the task has been to decipher what is true and what isn't.
I don't like the term fake news. I want to agree with the position taken by a professor in the United States of America, saying that the media ought not to promote this, because if it is fake, it is not news. News is the representation of reality, of what really happened in the society. So once you have fake, he said we should rather use the term viral deception, because there's an attempt on the source of that information to deceive and mislead people. So what we call fake news in media terms should be misinformation, misleading information, distortion and hoaxes promoted by someone that has an agenda of misleading the public or confusing the public in order to achieve either a political, economic, or social goal, or to cause about disaffection in the society.
Fake news has been around for so long. It has in fact been around for as long as the media has been around.
What has led to a lot of journalists, practicing journalists, scholars, and the rest of media watchers to come up with the terminology of fake news is the promotion of outright falsehood. Do we have that challenges with the media in history? Yes, of course, because that's what we used to call yellow journalism in the print medium, where you make an attempt to sensationalize issue. You turn everything into a tabloid in order to gain the attention of readers and win readers.
Away from the media, some feel the government's desperation and lack of proper education are causes of the continued spread of false information.
Issue of fake news has become so prevalent, as said, but this is traceable to the disposition of the government itself towards information dissemination. If we are in a season where government has turned its own information apparatus, information machinery to a platform for propaganda and for dissemination of their own truth, misleading people, misguiding the populace. So that is invariably encouraging people that if government is marketing lies, if government is marketing on truth, so what moral pedestal do you have to question people who just wake up and spread fake news all over?
Fake news is as a result of the fact that the space is being dominated by a lot of semi-literate and desperate people, and that is why they engage themselves in fake news, spreading rumor, and fake news is dangerous to the existence of any society. Education is the only solution to curtailing the effect of fake news. If you have a society that is enlightened, they might not likely embrace fake news. So we need to strengthen our curriculum, and we need to make primary and secondary education compulsory in this country.
In a country as populated as Nigeria, religious and ethnic differences can be sources of conflict, with facts not seen as sacrosanct. The truth gets blurred and misinformation gets peddled.
There is a concept in dealing with misleading information, in dealing with hoaxes, in dealing with false information, is the concept of pillarization. We create pillars in the society. That's by playing identity politics. For example, if you go to the Americans, there's African American. We look at people based on the color of their race, on their gender, and the rest of it. And in the process, we give a narrow perspective to issue. Now you talk about Fulani herdsmen. Are all herdsmen in Nigeria Fulani? Have you ever heard the term of Ijo fishermen? Have you ever heard of the term Igbo traders? The media should not join the political class in creating pillars. Over time, people tend to accept that as a reality. And when we accept that as a reality, it creates division within society and it creates misconception among the citizenry.
The effects of fake news are not mild, with a risk of causing major problems in any society.
It's very, very serious. That's why we're sitting on something very dangerous, something that can, set the world on fire. We're dealing with a phenomenon of both misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation could mean it's not quite deliberate, but disinformation means some people are deliberately putting out there materials, injurious. The intent is to manipulate the minds of the people for objectives known to them, for their own interest. That's absolutely inimical to national development. It's injurious. Now we've gotten to the point where people can't even differentiate between what is real and original anymore. And that is made more difficult by the democratization of the media space. Now everyone is a mini TV station, every person is a mini newspaper man. People can sit in the corners of their homes and cook up whatever it is and put it out there. And when even the original comes, people even begin to now dispute the original. And most of the time, the kind of news that we're talking about are such that are deliberately put out there to promote hate, to promote bigotry, to manipulate the minds of people for deliberate purposes of causing division. When you talk about what that can do, then you think back to countries who have been victims of, who have had experienced genocide. For instance, Rwanda. You look at the role that the media played in Rwanda, for instance, or the role the media played in Kenya. Even Nigeria, way back, you think to the Second Republic and politics, and the role the media played. Broadcasting was used to manipulate the minds of the people. So, and that is why ordinarily the media is not something that ought to be in the hands of anybody. That's why media has proper filtering process. Before an item can make it to the top or make it out, you have to go through a process where people will vet to ensure that this is really true. Because once it's out there, the damage might have been done, and it's not easy to make amends thereafter.
Thankfully, there are laws that can punish persons guilty of spreading fake news.
There are laws that regulate or affect fake news. There's the laws of sedition, the laws of defamation, the various broadcast laws, and of course, individual peer content management rules from different organizations and bodies. For instance, the Nigerian Institute of Journalists, or the Nigerian Union of Journalists, I beg your pardon, have mechanisms for sanctioning members who have infracted the rules of traditional journalism, right? So naturally, when a journalist has gone foul or run foul of any of the rules and has put fake news out there, there is the peer disciplinary mechanism for addressing those kind of things. They can either suspend him or withdraw his credentials, and that will address the matter.
But how do we define what is fake and what is not? Is there room for abuse in determining this?
I sincerely am not a particularly great fan of those laws of sedition. I think they are too easy to abuse. They're too easy to abuse, to restrict and reduce the freedom of individuals. We've seen it happen in Kaduna State with certain individuals. We've seen it happen in Kano State. We've seen it happen in the Cross River State with Agba Jalingo. So those laws are easy to exploit to restrict the rights of citizens to express themselves, and especially in cases where they are expressing matters of truth. So, but in any case, when there is an infraction of those laws, government should not, since the law is law, once the law exists, no matter how unpalatable that law is, it is the law. So once those laws exist and people are found to have infracted them, I think the punishment should be swift. And judges should be trained also in raising the quantum of compensation they give people who establish that they have been defamed. Because defamation is a serious matter. So you can't just come and find that someone has defamed you, has been defamed, and then you award 30,000 naira, 100,000 naira. How far would that go in addressing the damage to the person's character and reputation?
The conclusion here is that fake news is damaging and an end must be brought to it. Ayoyemi Kadeni, TVC News, Lagos.
In the newsroom every day all the time, we contend with fake news, the menace of fake news all around. You see information even from, you're meant to check your source, you discover that even from credible sources at times, you still encounter
even people that you
know,
trusted over the years.
Yes, people that will give you,
mislead you.
Yes, but still,
you will look stupid at the end of the day.
You know, credible media, big newspapers, big media outlets, you still discover that they still fall into this trap of fake news.
It's only eternal vigilance can help us get over this problem. It's a very, very big problem. And the advent of social media, as much as we want to say we are grateful that the internet came in our time, because it has made any job that you are doing, the internet has made it a lot easier. It is described as the greatest invention since light. So the internet also gave us social media, but social media has come with all kinds of problems. Social media has turned every individual to a journalist,
emergency journalist,
without training,
overnight,
without the capacity to filter. Everyone just thinks that it's a journalist. They call themselves bloggers, all kinds of people.
Copy and paste.
Just nonsense. Put all kinds of things.
Ethics, everything not there.
Nothing. No, nobody regulates. There's no regulation in the real sense. So people just want hits, and whatever they can do to attract it. Whether it is by putting out fake news or
one-sided reports,
they are ready to do it. Remember when the president of Chad died, they claimed that his son had killed all his bodyguards and his ADC, that the son believed that his father was murdered. We were trying to, because when I heard that story, I called the ambassador, the Chadian ambassador to Nigeria. And he told me that these things were not true. Do you know that even my own friends on social media, they were saying, look, what did you expect him to tell you? And these guys were lying. Later on, they brought out a picture of somebody being buried. Yes, and they claimed that it was the president of Idris Deby that was being buried. Meanwhile, Deby's burial had been scheduled for Friday so that international leaders can attend. You know? So it's terrible. It's terrible.
Jordan, how are you combating this menace of fake news?
Well, I think it's a major threat to journalism and mass communication. It's not just about media practitioners. We have political actors who are dedicated to the spread of fake news, especially when it's coming to election seasons. We have we have trade competitors, you know,
just to malign the opponents,
who are fighting each other. They issue out all sort of false information about their competitors in order to rubbish them. So the main actors, it's not just media practitioners. And of course, even when you're talking about people in the media, there are all sort of people that just come up parading themselves as journalists. They just set up blogs, you know, and begin to spread all sort of information. And you know, they do it for so many reasons. Sometimes for economic reasons, because people want to draw huge population into their website. and so they just pass on a lot of wrong information so that you can be compelled to go and click on the website. But I think we have to realize that digital media, the advent of digital media, has made it to be more pronounced. It's not as if it's a new phenomenon, but now with digital media, it has become a major problem. Now the problem we're having is that it's really going to reduce the impact of real stories. It's going to also undermine the integrity of legitimate news stories, because when we repeat false information over and over and over again, people are more likely to accept such information as true, especially when you're in a situation where the capacity of people to analyze the level of education is very low. You see all sorts of headlines that even does not even reflect the content of the story. We have read, somebody who claimed to be a journalist, who was telling Nigerians that he attended the burial of a Nigerian president in Saudi Arabia, and he was interviewing people, quoting, and people believed him. So all sort of lies,
that was one too that said that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was dead.
Yes.
And many people were calling
that quote me. Yes, the person was saying, quote me. You can't sit anywhere in the world.
So it's
silly people.
Yeah, it's people should have conscience. People should have some level of dignity. You can't just begin to dish out lies over time. But people should also know that when a website is associated consistently with false information, the people have the right to impose their own sanction on that kind of. So you just make sure you ignore that kind of website.
There are some websites I don't visit again at all. I don't bother to visit to get any information. All right, I have a postdoctoral fellow at the Dabua who is also a lecturer at the Lagos State University, LASU. Dr. Ganiya Tijani Adenle joins us via Zoom. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. The menace of fake news, how will you consider it as injurious to our society?
It's a terrible thing. For me, it's like, it's like an atomic bomb. Its effect is not limited to whatever it causes at that instant. It's something that keeps affecting the society on for years to come. I'm a postdoctoral fellow with the Bauer, and what the Bauer does, like some other fact-checking organizations, is that it fact-checks fake news or information disorder online and on the media space. And I see that, they'll bring, something will be shared online, it will be fact-checked, and then a year later, the information is trending all over again, and people are believing it. And it's not just about politics, it's not just about elections, or, sometimes it's even about health. You see people who, believe misinformation online and they die or they lose their loved ones because they believed, what they read or what they were told. And so for me, I think we should guard our media space the way we guard our nation, because information disorder can kill from within. It can destroy everybody without you seeing the enemy that's destroying you. And what I find more appalling and sad about is the fact that even media organizations that are reputable, I've been listening to your discussion, and I have to agree absolutely that social media has given us people who are claiming to be citizen journalists, or social media influencers who just go out there and spew racial, religious, ethnic, malinformation and cause chaos. But what is more disheartening are media organizations, credible, reputable media organizations, falling into information disorder, whether they are sharing misinformation or whether it's malinformation. They are actually taking facts, but they are weaving it in the wrong way to cause chaos. Let me just cite something very recent. I'm sure everybody is all about the PIB bill and how 3% is so small for derivative communities and all of that. I read Mr. Simon Kalawole's article, but my question is, how many Nigerians are going to sit down to read such articles that will explain, the nuances and why trained journalists, are wrong to be, misinterpreting and weaving, falsehood around facts. So I feel the problem we have, perhaps it would have been easier if information disorder is not even happening in reputable media organizations, so we can tell people, you know what, you get your news from here. But now we can't even say that, so it's everywhere, and that is why fact checking, like what Baba is doing, improving media literacy is very key, because you have to be on guard. It's no longer about this is credible. Every medium can actually.
All right, let me just hold you on there, Dr. Ganiya Tijani. Let me just hold you. Also, I have Mr. Simon Kolawole, the CEO and founder of the Cable News, with us, joining us. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Yes, I know the Cable has been at the vanguard of, checkmating the fake news. Anytime, if there's a presidential debate, if somebody is even saying something out of error, all through the 2019 election, I was enjoying your fact check and everything. So I want you to give an insight how you've been tackling the menace of fake news.
Yeah, thank you very much. The first point I would like to make is that fake news is a threat to everyone. It's a threat to you, it's a threat to me, it's a threat to societal order. It's a threat to the journalism profession. All those who have spoken before me now have pointed out the fact that this thing has crept into even what we call professional journalism. Before, I was not worried because of Facebook, Twitter. Not that I was not worried, but I felt, if people wanted to cross-check the facts or whatever as they presented to them, then they will go to reputable newspapers, they will go to professional outlets. But this thing has crept in now, because a lot of what we now call conventional papers, professional papers and TV stations, they are now taking a cue from social media. They will see some information on social media and they will grab immediately and rebroadcast without even verifying, which is a tragedy.
It is.
Now, what have we been trying to do at the Cable? Anytime we see a piece of information that we are unable to confirm, we have a fact check desk. So we pass it on to them and say, please cross-check this information, especially if it has been published. Now, this is where some people have problems. Those who are professional journalists can easily, like Mr. Otitoju said, he called the Chadian ambassador to Nigeria. Is this thing true? But what I have found out is that many of the people who are pretending to be journalists, they do not have more than a mobile phone, and then they bought data. That is all they have in their lives. They cannot call anybody to confirm if what they have seen is true or not. So all they just do is to push it out. Now, I still want to make a distinction, which is very critical. There is a difference between a mistake and what I call mischief. A professional newspaper, a properly established newspaper, can make a mistake and say this has happened when it actually didn't happen. Now, what a professional newspaper does is to now do correction, retraction. New York Times is one of the most respected newspapers in the world. They have a column dedicated to corrections and clarifications every day, so that they can set the record straight. Now, that is the professional way of going about it. So we have to segregate that from those who actually go out deliberately. It is intentional. There's a motive when they push out this information. There are also people who just created something out of a joke. By the time they post it, people will now start broadcasting and resharing without a caveat that, this is just a joke that we are creating. I mean, when Chief Femi Panika crossed over to APC, somebody quickly did a design and said, Yaya Bello Panika ticket, and started sharing. Now, I can bet the person was just having fun. But now, those who would not bother to cross-check, those who would not bother to verify, we just go out and say, you see, these are the people that APC wants to feed. So those are the kind of things that lead us into cross-checking the fact, because all of the information, we just know that, no, this is not possible.
Simon, let me ask you quickly.
Yes.
What can we do? What can we do? Because we simply can't go on like this. what can we do? Are our laws sufficient to address this this big problem?
Well, I would say there is good news and there is bad news. The good news, if it are called good news at all, is that it's a global problem. It's not limited to Nigeria. Now, why it is good news is that even confronting it now, we can have a common front in fighting the scourge of fake news worldwide. In Nigeria, actually, there are laws that already take care of these things. But we always think we need new laws. That is the way we are wired in Nigeria. There is a Telecoms Act that deals with the abuse of telecom platforms for mischief or whatever. It's there. And of course, there are also laws of libel and defamation. We have them. So the problem now is the enforcement. But we're also in a political environment where there is suspicion, you know, the government is trying to censor, oh no, the people are trying to pull down the government. So it makes it difficult to even know the way forward. That is one, if you are talking of the legal aspect. But the aspect that I have been trying to promote in my own corner is fact check. So anything anybody sends to you, please don't broadcast, don't share until you have cross-checked. You cannot put something in a group that has 200 people and say, please, is this thing true? You are indirectly telling people to reshare. You are just being hypocritical. Why don't you pick somebody there that you trust? And in some WhatsApp groups, when some information is being shared, somebody will just send to me directly and say, please, cross-check this thing before I post in the group. You can see somebody who is sincerely trying to verify. But you don't have that. So apart from the legal aspect, which I think should be enforced, because there are laws taking care of these things, even though it will come with its own complications, or maybe there's an attempt to censor. But also, the media itself should work towards verification, because what is lacking is verification.
All
so
right,
we should take it upon ourselves to verify.
Let me go to Dr. Ganiat Tijani. Now, as a journalism teacher, what are those things that can be done at your level to combat fake news?
Okay, I think one of such initiatives is what we just set up in LASO after a Dubawa fact check training, and that is having a fact check club for students. You see, a lot of people who post things online are actually youths, and so if we can create a culture where young people are, responsible and they are critical of the information they get and they share on social media, we're going to be solving a large chunk of the problem. Another thing I think we can also do is that we can promote organizations like Dubawa, where you're seeing something flying online, you're not sure. If you go to dubawa.org, there's a likelihood that somebody has fact-checked it and you can get the information. So one thing people do is that they share fake news or misinformation, but when they see the fact check, they rarely share it. So if you share misinformation and you get a fact check done by Dubawa, and then you should reshare it so that other people can know about it. I think we also need to promote media literacy. People need to know how media works. I think after Sunday Igboho's house was bombarded and all of that, somebody created a fake Facebook picture to show that the ammunition were actually recovered in 2013. I mean, everybody who saw that thing believed it. But if you are media literate, you will know that there are technologies, there are applications that can create fake Twitter posts and fake Facebook posts, So what we're trying to say is that if you are media literate, we can't go back to the old era of, almighty media effect theory where you believe everything you see on social media or everything you hear. So, being media literate, because before you see the person to court and all of that, the havoc could have been done. So we need to, promote fact-checking, and every media organization needs to have a fact-check desk like the cable does, and like the Dubawa has also helped many media organizations to, to set up so that they can also verify facts. I mean, even if you correct, some people have gotten the information and they'll still keep going about it with it. I took a Marwa some days ago because I wasn't going far, and someone was still saying in the Marwa that Buhari is from Sudan, the real Buhari is dead. This is 2021. You can just imagine some things some people's minds will not change regardless of the correct information that they have once they've been exposed to misinformation. So that is also very critical. I think we need to focus more on
picking it from your
law.
perspective here, and when you look at it, that the people that we should be looking up to, sometimes from the federal government, information that maybe they are information handlers, they will still come out at the end of the day to say this is not coming from us.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say we got something from a media person from the federal government, and the minister coming up to say no, this is not from us. So how do we now sift this information?
You see, the media has its own obligation, historical obligation to the people, and that is to inform correctly, irrespective of the source of that information. Whether this information is coming from the president or from the governor, the media should do investigation.
Yes.
These days, people just write press statement and send to journalists. In our own time, and this is still our own time, when you get an information, you do background check, because the person giving you that information is not perfect.
Yes.
They can commit error. He may also have a different motive, which might be, to score political gains.
In spite of the fact that he's representing the government.
You don't just go and keep reporting press statements. You need to thoroughly subject every information into the three-way test, whether it is true, whether it is factual, whether it is real. So we media people, we need a lot of work to do, in terms of dissecting information that are given to us by government officials,
in terms of
private individuals.
Overnight Chankara journalists that we have all around. It's not making things easy.
You know what baffles me was what Simon said earlier on. I think we touched on it a little bit, whereby even journalists are taking their cue from social media. It's extremely disgraceful that a person who had journalism training, some of them went to journalism school. You do not know that social media, a lot of the people there have no interest in any form of filtration. Whatever comes, they just slam this. And you too will not
one-sided, not balanced.
Yes, you will not try your best to even check. Do you know, because a lot of so-called gatekeepers in media houses are extremely lazy. They see something on social media, they are not willing to add their own fresh line to it. If you are committed to adding your own fresh line, in the process of adding your own fresh line, you ask one or two questions, and then you will even discover that it's actually false. Now, we have a situation in which, in some states, some media houses have correspondents. A fake news will emanate from that state. You are not going to even ask your own correspondent to go to the scene. You won't ask your correspondent to go to the scene. You are rushing to go and slam what you saw on social media because you want to break news. Does it not make sense to not break news than to break fake news and lose your credibility? We too, as media people, we need to do some soul searching. We need to ask ourselves pertinent questions. Yes, because you too, the media house, saw it on social media and thought it was sensible to simply put it on air. We should go beyond all that. We need to be more hardworking. We need to be more focused. We need to take our time to dissect between fake news and what constitutes real news. Otherwise, this thing will get worse, and the social media will help us to finally destroy the mainstream media. Because we are heading towards that direction now. They are now like the agenda setters. People that we know them, they are purveyors of falsehood, they are ignorant peddlers. They are now looking like the trailblazers now. But we must ask ourselves, is this right? And we must be committed to doing what is right at all times.
Mr. Kolawole, on the final analysis, when we are moving towards another electionary period, 2023, and as a person, I expect more of this unsubstantiated news just flying around and everything. How can we tackle this?
Yes, there is no doubt that we are entering a season of more fake news and fake news and fake news. There's no doubt about that. Actually, at the Cable, we are setting up a special desk to just fact check issues around the 2023 elections, which we are starting very early. Now, it's the same solutions we have to apply. One, let every credible newspaper have a fact check desk, as Dr. Ganiat has said. Every newspaper, every TV house, every credible media organization must have a fact check desk. Because the truth is that we cannot control what goes into social media. It is beyond us. But we can help those who want to learn. We can help those who want to verify by making sure that we lead them aright. People must know that whatever they see on Facebook, they should take it with a pinch of salt. They should now check, is this on a credible platform? It is very, very important. It is not everything that they get wrong on social media. Sometimes they get it right. But this can only be to kind of nudge you as a professional media organization to cross-check. They have said so person is dead, or they have said they have found so ballot boxes in somebody's house. You can now go and find out. Don't just say, because it is on one website or on one Twitter handle, you want to run and use it. So it is very important. The media will play that, the professional media. I don't believe in this thing they call citizen journalism. It's a fraud. There are a lot of things that go to.
Mr. Simon Kolawole, I want to thank you for your contribution. I don't know, Dr. Ganiat Tijani, your final take? She's still there.
PR people who work for people in government should also put out information on time. So if you put out information on time, then mischievous people would not be able to, play on people's urge to know what is happening to create disinformation. So I feel the fact that sometimes those representing our leaders do not relate well with the media, they also give mischief makers the opportunity to create fake news. And I also think that the reality is we cannot divorce the economics of media organizations from this issue of information disorder. A lot of media organizations are not doing well financially. We have to be realistic. And a lot of people, some are not being paid salaries, or some are left and they've gone to create their own websites. And you don't see the quality with which they were working in a mainstream organization in what they are doing, online now. So I think a lot of these things, apart from a poor appreciation of the effects of information disorder, some of them, and a good number of them, is still related to the economics of, clickbait and getting as much into their website as possible.
Ganiat Tijani Adele, thank you. A postdoctoral fellow at the Dubawa, and it's also a lecturer at Lagos State University, Lasu Ojo. And I want to thank you, Mr. Simon Kolawole. I think today, Simon Kolawole, later today I will read your page on this day. I don't miss it every Sunday. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.